Yeah, so it's interesting because you can have a group of people who are very dedicated to their anti-racist journeys
Mhm.
and are really trying to figure out how they can be about the change that we need to see. And then at the same time, be so, I'm sorry, I'm just going to say fragile
Well, yeah,
that
I mean, white
that
fragility is the name of the book. It's there. It just is. And it's one of those things that, as a white person who does this work, I am embarrassed every single day by the behavior of my fellow white people. I just am. I mean, it's just because there are bad actors out there, and because, let's face it, it's folks who look like me who caused this whole mess, right? And I don't want to say it's a burden like, oh, Melanie, please feel sorry for me, this poor white person who has this burden to carry. But I mean, it's this extra thing to think about whenever you engage in this kind of work, and all the ways that people have said things that have been misconstrued or that have been said in bad faith. I mean, I'll just say, when I'm having conversations with people in my family, it's like, of course, all lives matter, but that's not the opposite of what Black Lives Matter is. And you're deliberately misconstruing, and now all lives matter has become something that basically means white lives matter and why don't you shut up? And so I mean I would never say all lives matter in a context other than this, to talking about the language ever again because of that. But if I ever wanted to say something about the humanity that we all share, I have to choose my words very carefully because of how I present, because of who I am. That could be misconstrued and I don't want it to be. It's something to navigate, and that's okay. That's mine to navigate. That's part of what you sign up for when you say I want to try to make the world a little bit better.
it demands this work that you put that fragility aside, even if you are feeling it.
Mhm.
And it's interesting because you talk about how people at all stages of their anti-racist development still have fragility. So many white people at all stages of that still have fragility around their whiteness. And it does often take people like me by surprise because you think you're having a conversation with someone who's at a certain point in the work. And it's kind of like, if you are taking a higher math class, I am not a math person, but let's say you have gotten to the point of, calculus or whatever, and you sit down to, go over your work on theorems, or I didn't take calculus with somebody else in your class or whatever people do in a calculus class, and you find out that the person you're talking to has not quite mastered long division yet. It's a little jarring, right? Because
Mhm.
it's like, whoa, wait a minute. You're sitting here in this space and we're having this conversation, and I'm finding out that there's some really key things that still
Yeah.
have to be worked on for me to be able to engage with you in the way that I'm
Well,
trying
I think
to.
what you're saying about
But
Melanie is that interesting connection between fragility and humility, right? It's that thing that's
yes.
able to say, I'm on a path, I am learning. And I'll tell you, after doing this work for 26 years, I'm still learning. I mean, I'll never present myself as the person who knows everything. But yes, I have met people before who look like me, who claim to be leaders in this space, and then turn around and say, but I don't see color. And I'm like, oh, here we go. And that look on your face is exactly what I don't ever want to see when I'm trying to present myself as someone who is, an ally in this work. Like
Well,
I want to be,
and
yeah,
as your friend and colleague, it is my job to check you when
sure.
you are entering that space. I mean, that's the other thing
Hmm.
as we're having this conversation, as a white man, a white queer man, and a black queer woman, right? Who also, and I have disabilities. I'm not sure about you, I'm sure maybe considering we're the
I have
same
a few
age.
health concerns, but
There we
I'm
are.
not
Okay.
ADA. I'm not under the
Okay.
ADA.
Okay. Yeah, me though. I am. So we both have our intersections, right? It's really important for us to have that trust in
Hmm.
our relationship as people who are doing this work together, that if you are being fragile, I can check you without feeling like that's going to end our working relationship
Yes.
or our friendship. And you come from a red state. I am an East Coast girl born and raised. I've never lived anywhere but the East Coast. And then I've also
Mhm.
never lived anywhere except major cities, New York and Baltimore, unless I was living on college campus. And even that was 30 minutes from New York City. So I am
And
so far
college campuses
away.
are their own little blue
Oh,
bubbles
very
anyway.
much their
Yeah.
own, this, especially the one I went to. So I've never had the experience of living in a red space or a red state or a red community, even. So there may be times where I make assumptions about those folks, or I have blind spots based on my ignorance of them. So I may need you to check me sometimes because you are from a red state and I have no experience
Sort of.
in, well, your family's from Idaho. You spend
Yes, my
time
family has
with,
grown in Idaho.
and
Yeah.
and you've
I grew
gotten
up in
to
the US
know,
Navy, so all over the place, but yeah.
and
But
you've gotten
military
to
bases.
know a lot of people
Sure.
who vote that way. And I have not. I've
Mm.
always lived in major East Coast cities, Baltimore and New York. I was on a college, a very liberal college campus when I wasn't in one of those cities. So there may be times where I spout off about things that are based in ignorance of those communities. I mean, I used to have a friend, we don't really talk anymore, but I used to have this friend who was from Georgia and he was white, he was from that kind of community. And he was a really smart person. And I remember saying, like, just making a lot of cracks about, how dumb these people are who would vote for Donald Trump. And this was around the time that we were all laughing about the fact that Trump could even get the nomination. And this guy was like, "You're wrong. These people are not dumb. They think really differently than you do. They see the
Hmm.
world night and day differently from you, but you have to understand that they're not stupid. And thinking that is kind of a dangerous thing."
Yeah.
And he was right.
You can be wrong about something without being dumb about it. We talk about kind of the disenfranchised white working class who is the big base for this whole kind of MAGA movement. I do think they believe that they are the most disenfranchised people in the country, and I believe that about that they are wrong. They are misinformed, but they also have lots of information sources that feed them that lie over and over and over again. And whenever you
Absolutely.
hear a lie over and over and over again, it becomes easier to believe. And so I would agree with your friend. I would say it's dangerous just to say, well, somebody's just dumb, because they are a force of political, power in this country, and they are reachable if we can continue to kind of reach out. They are not the oligarchs and billionaires that I believe are the really
Mm-mm.
core part of what our real. We're going to talk in terms of friends and enemies. I mean, that's the enemy of kind of, our way of life that is currently under attack. The white working class who vote for those folks, so many times they do it because they think about these East Coast liberals like you and me who are looking down our noses at them and we think we're so superior. And it's like, well, we'll show you. We're going to elect this guy because we know he drives you nuts.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he does.
I mean,
And
and
so here we
I
are.
want to be very clear, though, that that is definitely in there with a cocktail of racial hatred and
Hmm.
homophobia and transphobia. Because
Oh,
I
sure.
do have white friends who, when I post about the incredible moment of white supremacy that we're living in, are very sometimes too quick to comment with, "Oh, but it's not just about race, it's about, billionaires. The real problem is the economic inequity." It's all tied together in such a big knot in this
Yeah.
country that you can't divorce one from the other. But I hear what you're saying. And what I feel like I hear far too often
Mhm.
from my white liberal friends, sometimes my white leftist friends too, but definitely from my white liberal friends, is these, if you look at the people who actually go to college and get a college degree, you'll see that he's not as popular in white America. It's really just these uneducated, lowbrow people who are not as smart as the rest of us who vote for. And first of all, number one, yeah, that's why they hate you. Number two, that is so, how do I put this? For a person of color, being on the outside of that white liberal bubble and
Mhm.
hearing this, It sounds like fragility because there are so many, if you look at the actual data from the last election,
Hmm.
plenty of white people with college degrees voted for Donald Trump.
Hmm.